Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thanks for tuning in. We have another video today. This is from an article written by the Silver Phoenix 500. Link will be in the description. This was actually sent from a friend of mine that I met through the Silver YouTube community. I'll keep his name anonymous, but he sent me this. We were actually talking about one of my recent videos where I was going over the silver price, the candlestick charts, looking at potential price ranges, and this was an interesting article he shared with me, and I figured it was actually interesting enough to share it with you guys as well. So make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you already haven't, if you love staying updated in the precious metals world. So anyways, this headline says, silver price, is this the year for a new bull market? After waiting for 7 years since the silver price traded above $30, precious metals investors are wondering if 2019 will be the year that the shiny metal finally enters into a new bull market. However, for silver to enter a new bull market, certain signs and indicators need to take place. I discussed this in detail in my latest video, which he also goes over in this article. Interestingly, we have seen several precious metals analysts suggest that something quite interesting is taking place in the silver market, which I've been talking about in the past couple weeks. For example, Alzador Maslowed wrote an article about silver futures implying that the Chinese government may indeed be acquiring a significant long position in the silver market. MacLeod believes that China may be going long silver via the futures market to protect its supply by hedging as the price heads higher in the future. So how can we tell if silver is entering a new bull market? Well, the biggest indicator tends to be the price. While physical supply and demand factors impact price, we have seen in years which demand fell during rising prices, but also surged during extreme sell-offs. Thus, it's important to look for the key price levels that will signal that silver has begun a new bull market. The silver price has been impacted by fundamental and technical analysis. And I've mentioned in recent articles, I dismissed technical analysis for years as I thought it was nothing more than reading tea leaves or goat entrails, as a commentator stated. However, after I spent the past year watching and studying the day trading markets, I realized that stocks were bouncing off moving averages, technical levels, and formations day in and day out. So he kind of took interest in this, and he's been analyzing this over the past year, and he's seeing some interesting things and things starting to take place, like the stars are all starting to align. And it's interesting because now he goes into some very interesting things that not many people talk about. So when he mentions when he went back and looked at the long-term gold and silver charts, I saw the large price breakouts occurred at certain key levels. Why was this the case? Well, it seems that when gold and silver broke above a key level, it came on the radar of traders, hedge funds, investors, and institutions. Thus, breaking above or below these key levels brings on a great deal of more interest in trading volume, which I've mentioned before. I definitely think the media could and should talk about precious metals in a positive fashion more. But like when gold broke out about above the $1,400 resistance level, that brought a lot of volume in. A lot of people were excited about it, and they also, they follow suit to get into silver as well. But he does go on to mention some really key points that I've never even talked about in my videos, which I do want to explain or share my opinion about. So let's get right into that. So he goes on to say, basically, when the gold or silver price finally pushes above a long-term resistance level, everyone wants in, which I just mentioned. And it's not just gold and silver. The market pays attention to these key levels in all stocks and commodities. So it's essential to understand that while the fundamentals are underlying drivers of price, the key technical levels provide the big punch or huge increase in buying or selling depending on the technical setup. I ignored this information for years but will no longer. Does that mean that I am no longer interested in the fundamentals? Hell no. Actually, I'm interested in the fundamentals more than ever. However, technical analysis will prove or provide us provide us with some clues of how silver will break out to new highs in the future. Furthermore, when the US and world experience peak oil, the impact on most assets will be quite negative, but this will be shown in the charts as stocks, bonds, real estate lose value while gold and silver move up in the opposite direction. So That's an interesting point as well, that even if something bad can happen, it can have an opposite reaction, and silver can actually benefit from it. Precious metals could. And he goes on to say, in my newest video, I explain in detail how the past silver price spikes occurred at crucial technical levels, and will do so again in the future. And this is the really important part that I want to talk about. He goes on to say the key technical levels are important to keep an eye on because the paper buyer or seller drive the majority of the silver market price. This shouldn't be a surprise because only 1% or less of investors purchase physical gold and silver. So he actually is correlating both markets, the paper, the ETF, stuff like that, with the physical precious metals. But he's saying only 1% or less actually drive that price, which is true. But I'm trying to look at it in regards to a physical bullion asset affecting spot price, not only ETFs, but the long-term silver price for both of them. They both are correlating, but they both have different markets, as he even states. But I'm curious to see which one, if physical precious metals do gain more traction because people want more security and want more control of their wealth, will that follow suit with the paper contracts and the ETFs, all that as well? I mean, right now we see that playing a huge influencer on physical price, but if the pages or if the tides were reversed, would that do the same? Which he kind of did explain earlier with stocks and bonds, but I don't know if that's just a theory, or if it was put into action, what would actually happen. In the 20-year monthly chart of silver, actually, I want to make another point on that as well, because the physical bullion, the physical precious metals, also have different indicators and different price influence, because miners have to dig it out the ground. They have to actually make it into coins. They have to stamp these coins. They have to ship them out. APMEX has to store them in vaults. They have to, the collectors have to buy them. So it's a much different market. But how close or how much of a correlation is the price where the markets affect each other? That's the point I really wanted to get to. But anyways, I'm curious what you guys have to say about that as well. So when I read that, it really did shock me. I mean, it's an obvious statement. I mean, obviously, more people invest into the paper side of it or the digital side of it, but looking at the correlating price, it really does. It's something to think about. I'm sure there is, actual statistics about it, but for the futuristic term that we're looking at, the point of this video, the futuristic portion of it, I'm curious, especially if people start investing more into the physical precious metal, what would happen? Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. I would love to hear your option or your opinions and your ideas on that. So this is showing the silver monthly chart. The chart goes on to say, for silver to continue on the new bull market, it must push through the 200 MMA red line at $16.76. If you guys don't know what all this stuff means, check out my recent video where I do the July analysis of this chart. I went over and showed you guys everything, what the MMA means, what the price indicators are. It's $16.76. Then I think the lowest it can go, at bottom out, is $15.50. There's this triangle formation that's forming, so right around this area, it's really important to pay attention to in the coming up weeks. But anyways, you guys can check that out if you want to. Just go to my videos, and I posted like 3 days ago, I think, or 2 days ago. But anyways, in the 20-year monthly chart of silver, the price has been bouncing off the lower rising trend line since 2004. Not only is this an important technical level for silver, but it also shows a bottom for the price, as $15 is now the average cost to produce an ounce of silver by the primary mining industry. So that is true, but how much of this is true in the next 10, 20 years? Whether it's less silver, whether there's a silver shortage, whether it's not as profitable to mine silver, whether it's, the industrial uses for it become more higher demand, so it seeks more supply. It's interesting how to make these points, but not also go the extra mile and think a step ahead. I try to always question everything. So to say, $15 is now the average cost to produce an ounce of silver by the primary mining industry, I'm saying, okay, well, what about in 10 years? How much will it be then? And will that affect the price? And what if these miners aren't making as much profits, which I've actually talked about in the past? Or what if it's harder to find out of the ground, or they need to upgrade their equipment, or anything? There's so many factors that just to say a statement without questioning it is kind of mundane to me. But anyways, he mentions to go, if we go back to 2004, the primary silver mining industry was producing silver at about $5 an ounce. Thus, the cost to produce silver has tripled in 15 years, and the technical levels show it. Lastly, I explain why the silver price must push above these two moving averages to be in a new bullish trend. However, for silver to be in a new bull market, I believe there's a certain key price level that needs to rise above. So that's the article. I thought this was an amazing article. Many things that stick out to me. I'm curious what sticks out to you. Do you guys like this article? Like I said, the link will be in the description if you want to check it out. I thought this was a very well written and put together and thought out article. I love stuff like this that makes you think, that makes makes you jog your memory, really step outside of your comfort zone and think about things that you never thought about, or think about different angles that also might play in something that you're discussing. Because the more we understand, the more we acknowledge, the more we recognize, the more we think about, the better off we're going to be. As soon as we're closed-minded, as soon as we think we know everything and we stop trying to keep learning, then we're setting ourselves up for dangerous situations. I'm always trying to hear different perspectives and different points of view, and I think that's the best way to go about it, especially with something that changes so rapidly like the silver and gold market. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe if you already haven't. I post daily videos every single day, so make sure you stay tuned for that as well. If you guys love precious metals or even want to just learn about it, check out all my other videos. I make beginner tutorial videos. I make educational videos. I make news type videos. I do unboxings. I do giveaways. I do it all. So make sure to subscribe if you want to stay tuned for all that and check out my other stuff. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate your time so much. Thanks for the article, my friend, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.